Hello, esteemed gentlemen. Respect is rarely lost in shouts. It's lost in silence. Psychologists have found that humans feel more offended by being ignored than by being openly insulted. And that's where Sigma males become a problem, because they've turned ignoring into an art form. While most men offend people by being loud, arrogant, or obnoxious, Sigma males do it in ways so subtle and unnerving that people don't even realize they're being cut until the wound is already deep. They'll walk away mid-conversation, question sacred beliefs without blinking, or act like your birthday party is just a glorified cupcake ritual. And the worst part? They don't even mean to do it. Offending people is almost their default setting, not out of cruelty, but because the Sigma male brain simply doesn't run on the same social software as everyone else. So today we're diving into 12 offensive things only Sigma males do, the kind of habits that make them loved by almost no one, but feared, envied, and resented by nearly everyone. And if you're easily offended, well, consider this your early exit pass. No hard feelings. Actually, scratch that, a Sigma wouldn't care either way. Number 1. They don't pretend to care about collective identity. Sigma males offend people in ways most of them can't even put into words, and one of the most brutal is how little they care about collective identity. For most people, identity is borrowed. It's drawn from a tribe, a nation, a religion, a school, a movement, or even a job title. It's the security blanket that makes them feel they belong to something bigger than themselves. But for Sigma males, those collective banners mean nothing. They don't define themselves by what group they fall into. They define themselves by what they've built on their own. That alone is deeply offensive to people who rely on group identity as their entire backbone. If you're proud of your workplace, your political party, or your cultural tribe, and a Sigma male shrugs like it's irrelevant, it feels like he's spitting on everything you stand for, and in a way he is, because he doesn't bend to inherited loyalties. He doesn't feel the need to chant the anthem louder than everyone else or join in the rituals that glue people together. To him, those things are noise. This offends people more than open insults because it exposes a hidden truth. Most of what they cling to is borrowed identity, not self-created. A Sigma male standing apart is a living reminder that they've never truly stood alone. That's why people label him arrogant, cold, or unpatriotic. It's a defense mechanism against the discomfort he stirs up. But here's the kicker. Sigma males don't do this to rebel. They're not trying to provoke. They simply don't feel chained to the same illusions. To them, being defined by a group is the opposite of freedom. They'd rather be misunderstood, hated, or excluded than hand over their individuality to something collective. That makes them dangerous in the eyes of group thinkers. Because the moment someone stops needing the group, they can't be controlled by it. And nothing offends a system more than a man who proves he doesn't need it. Number 2. They refuse to join celebrations. Sigma males have a way of offending people without even opening their mouths. And one of the clearest examples is how they refuse to join in celebrations. Birthdays, office parties, farewell dinners, holiday gatherings, where most people show up, clap, and fake enthusiasm, a Sigma male simply doesn't bother. He doesn't see the point in going through motions that feel hollow, and that absence doesn't go unnoticed. For most people, celebrations aren't just events. They're proof of belonging. Being there means you're part of the circle, and not showing up is viewed as betrayal. When a Sigma male skips the cake cutting or the toast, it stings because it silently questions the value of the whole ritual. His refusal isn't just about avoiding small talk. It's like he's holding up a mirror that says, "This entire thing doesn't matter as much as you think it does." That's why people take it so personally. They'll call him antisocial, rude, or arrogant, but underneath that irritation is insecurity. Because if one person can completely disregard the ritual and still sleep fine at night, it forces everyone else to confront the uncomfortable truth. Maybe they're clapping, cheering, and pretending to care only because it's expected. The Sigma male's absence exposes just how much of celebration is built on performance, not genuine joy. What makes this more offensive is that he won't apologize for it. He won't invent excuses. He won't text long explanations, and he won't soften the blow. His silence around it makes people feel even smaller, like their big day wasn't worth the minimal effort of showing up. And the more they complain, the more indifferent he becomes, because he's not wired to validate shallow traditions just to keep peace. Ironically, this refusal is what gives the Sigma male such quiet power. People resent him for skipping out, but they can't ignore it. His absence often gets talked about more than the event itself. In choosing not to play along, he makes the whole ritual feel fragile. That's the offensive truth. He doesn't need the celebration, but the celebration seems to need him. Number 3, they turn kindness into a test. When most people receive kindness, they respond with warmth, a simple thank you, maybe a little over-the-top gratitude to make the giver feel good. Sigma males don't operate like that. When someone offers them a favor, instead of soaking in the moment, they take a step back and start running silent calculations. Why did this person do this? What do they want in return? Is this really generosity, or is it an investment disguised as kindness? This unnerves people because kindness in society isn't always about kindness. Most of the time, it's a subtle exchange. You give something, you expect appreciation, loyalty, or leverage in return. Sigma males see right through that transaction, and instead of reacting with blind gratitude, they test it. They'll accept the gesture, but they won't reward it with the emotional payoff most people crave. They don't gush, they don't overcompensate, they don't put you on a pedestal for handing them a favor. That absence of validation is what offends people the most, because at its core, most people aren't offended that their kindness wasn't appreciated. They're offended that their hidden motives got exposed. They expected to see joy, obligation, or dependence on the Sigma male's face. Instead, they see nothing but calm detachment, and that makes them uncomfortable. It's like dealing with someone who rewrites the script in real time, stripping away the social coding until all that's left is raw intent. What makes this behavior so brutal is that it isn't necessarily cynical, it's survival. Sigma males have often lived through situations where kindness came with invisible chains, where a favor was later used as ammunition. So now, they treat every gesture like a test. Was this real, or was it bait? They don't confront you directly, but their cool response quietly reveals their suspicion. And here's the irony. The more genuine someone's kindness is, the less they'll care about the lack of gushing gratitude. But if their kindness had strings, the Sigma's reaction burns them alive. That's why this behavior is so offensive, because it doesn't just reject fake kindness, it exposes it. Number 4, they challenge leaders in their own arena. One of the most offensive habits Sigma males have is how they challenge leaders in their own arena. Most people tread carefully around authority figures. They nod, they agree, they show respect even when they don't believe in the leader's expertise. Sigma males don't do that. If someone claims to be an expert, a Sigma will calmly test them right there in front of their followers. He doesn't raise his voice, he doesn't throw insults, he just asks the right question, makes the right observation, or points out the crack in the logic. Suddenly, the authority figure who seemed untouchable starts to look human. That's offensive because leaders thrive on perception. Their influence depends on being seen as the smartest person in the room. The moment a Sigma male dismantles one of their points with calm precision, the illusion breaks. And worse, it breaks in front of an audience. To a leader, losing face in private is survivable, but bleeding status in front of their own followers feels like humiliation in real time. What makes it sting even more is that Sigma males don't do it with the energy of rebellion. They don't storm in trying to prove a point. They do it with a kind of surgical calm, as if the truth simply matters more than hierarchy. That composure makes it 10 times more offensive, because it's not framed as an attack. It's framed as undeniable clarity. Followers watching this exchange can't help but notice the shift, and suddenly the leader's authority isn't unquestionable anymore. This is why people call Sigma males dangerous without fully understanding why. It's not that they fight openly, it's that they expose weaknesses without needing a fight at all. A leader who's used to control suddenly feels stripped, and a crowd that once saw certainty now sees cracks. In social dynamics, that's the equivalent of pulling the rug from under someone's entire power base. And the sigma doesn't even flinch. He doesn't celebrate the win, he doesn't gloat. He just leaves the pieces scattered for everyone else to see. That's what makes it so brutally offensive. He makes leaders bleed respect without lifting a finger, and once the illusion is broken, it rarely repairs itself. Number 5, they don't mask disinterest. One of the most offensive things Sigma males do is that they don't mask their disinterest. Most people have been trained to put on a polite face. They nod, they smile, they throw in fake enthusiasm just to smooth over the awkwardness. But Sigma males, they don't bother. If they're bored, it shows. If the conversation is pointless, their eyes wander. If the energy feels fake, their silence screams louder than words. And that raw honesty lands like a slap. For people who expect respect by default, this is humiliating. They think their title, their story, or their presence should automatically command attention. But a Sigma male doesn't give attention as charity. He only invests energy in what feels real or stimulating. That's why his disinterest cuts so deep. It exposes how empty the performance actually is. Someone who thought they were captivating suddenly realizes they're not. At least, not to him. This is offensive because it bypasses all the social rituals people rely on. Fake politeness isn't just manners. It's a shield. It protects egos, smooths over insecurities, and maintains illusions. When a Sigma male refuses to play along, the shield cracks, and people feel naked. They're forced to face the truth. They aren't as interesting, as powerful, or as impressive as they assumed. What makes it worse is that Sigma males don't apologize for this reaction. They don't try to fix the awkwardness. They don't rush to reassure. Their disinterest just hangs in the air, heavy and undeniable, leaving the other person scrambling to fill the silence. That imbalance is humiliating because it shifts the power dynamic instantly. The one seeking attention now looks like a clown trying too hard, while the Sigma stays unbothered. And here's the brutal twist. The Sigma isn't trying to offend. He's simply unwilling to fake what he doesn't feel. But in a world where fake enthusiasm is the social currency, that refusal is deeply offensive. Because it doesn't just expose the dullness of the conversation, it exposes how dependent most people are on lies to feel important. Number 6, they decline invitations without excuses. Few things offend people more than being declined, and Sigma males take that offense to another level. Where most people sugarcoat a refusal, adding long explanations, polite excuses, or fake regret, Sigmas don't bother. They say no flatly and then they disappear. No justification, no smoothing over, no promises to catch up next time. Just silence. That silence is what really burns, because excuses are more than politeness, they're reassurance. They tell the inviter, "You matter enough for me to explain myself." When a Sigma male refuses without giving that social cushion, it leaves people feeling unimportant. It quietly communicates, your event, your feelings, your need for my presence, none of it changes my decision. And that's why people get offended. Deep down, most invitations are less about generosity and more about ego. People want validation for their efforts. They want proof that their party, their dinner, or their gathering is worth attending. When a Sigma shrugs it off without explanation, it punctures that validation. It reveals that the event wasn't magnetic enough to draw him in. And that truth is harder to swallow than any polite excuse. What makes it even more offensive is the calmness behind it. There's no malice, no open insult, no drama, just indifference. Indifference is far more brutal than rejection, because rejection at least acknowledges your effort. Indifference makes it feel invisible. To someone who spent time organizing, planning, or simply working up the nerve to invite, that invisibility stings like humiliation. But Sigmas don't see it as disrespect. They see it as efficiency. Why waste words defending a choice that doesn't need defending? To them, no is complete on its own. Adding explanations feels like handing over power, and they refuse to do that. They'd rather be misunderstood as cold or arrogant than waste energy appeasing someone else's ego. The offense comes from what this silence exposes, that most invitations are really requests for validation, not just company. By declining without excuses, Sigma males reveal the hollowness behind the gesture. And once that truth sinks in, it's not the no that hurts, it's realizing how little weight the inviter truly carried in the Sigma's world. Number 7, they refuse to be fixed emotionally. One of the most offensive things about Sigma males is how they refuse to be fixed emotionally. In a world where people advertise their pain, seek out therapy, vent to friends, and turn healing into a group activity, Sigma males step in the opposite direction. They disappear into themselves. They heal in silence. They let the storm pass without broadcasting it or begging for someone to hold the umbrella. This unsettles people because modern culture rewards vulnerability as a kind of social currency. Showing your pain invites sympathy, advice, or pity, and for many that pity becomes proof they're loved, noticed, or important. When a Sigma male refuses to engage with that system, it feels like rejection. He's not interested in being pitied, counseled, or emotionally rescued. He'd rather endure alone than hand his wounds over to others for validation. And this is where offense creeps in. Some people build their entire sense of worth around being helpers, the ones who give advice, offer comfort, or play savior. A Sigma male strips that power away instantly. By refusing their comfort, he makes their role irrelevant. To them, his silence feels like arrogance, as if he's saying, "I don't need you and I never will." What makes it sting even more is the Sigma's calmness about it. He doesn't rage. He doesn't dramatize. He doesn't act like a tortured soul. He just removes himself, works through the pain privately, and comes back whole. That unnerves people who believe healing requires community because it quietly exposes another truth. Maybe they're leaning on others not because it's necessary, but because they can't survive alone. Of course, this refusal isn't about pride. It's about control. Sigma males know that once you hand your emotions to someone else, you're vulnerable to their manipulation, even if it comes wrapped in kindness. By healing alone, they keep their dignity intact. But to the outside world, that dignity looks like coldness. And that's what offends people most. Not just that Sigma males won't be fixed, but that they don't need to be. Their independence is a direct insult to everyone who defines their value through being needed. Number 8, they treat social gods as clowns. One of the quickest ways Sigma males offend people is in how they treat society's so-called gods, the celebrities, influencers, and power figures that everyone else bows to. Sigmas see them as ordinary, sometimes even laughable. Where the crowd gasps in awe, they yawn. Where others scramble for selfies, they walk away unimpressed. That cold disregard isn't just indifference, it's a quiet insult to the entire system of worship that people build around these figures. Most people don't realize it, but their obsession with celebrities is a form of borrowed identity. When they scream for an artist, follow an influencer religiously, or obsess over a billionaire's every move, they're really trying to attach themselves to that person's power. It makes them feel bigger. So when a Sigma male looks at the same idol and treats them like a random stranger, it cuts deep. It exposes the worship for what it is, desperation dressed as admiration. What offends the most is that Sigma males don't even do this dramatically. They don't shout, "I don't care about your idol." They just act like the figure doesn't matter, and that's worse. Indifference is sharper than hate, because hate still acknowledges importance. Indifference erases it. And when people see their untouchable heroes erased in real time, it feels like an insult to their own values. Leaders, celebrities, and influencers thrive on collective attention. Their power only exists because crowds give it to them. A Sigma male refusing to give that energy makes the god look smaller, and in doing so makes the worshippers look foolish. That's why people lash out at Sigmas with words like arrogant, bitter, or jealous. It's projection. They can't admit the truth, that their devotion depends on illusions while the Sigma walks free of them. The brutal reality is that Sigma males don't treat social gods as clowns to rebel. They treat them that way because they see through the costume. Strip away the followers, the cameras, the spotlight, and what's left is just another flawed human. The Sigma male refuses to pretend otherwise. And in a world built on worship, refusing to kneel is the greatest offense of all. Number 9. They mirror people too accurately. One of the most offensive things Sigma males do is mirror people with unsettling accuracy. Most people use subtle filters in social interactions, sugarcoating their responses, softening the edges, or politely ignoring the parts of someone's personality that are unflattering. Sigma males don't play by those rules. When they mirror someone, they do it so precisely that the person ends up staring at their own reflection, and often it's not a flattering one. If someone is arrogant, the Sigma's tone will carry back the same arrogance, but sharper. If someone is fake polite, the Sigma reflects it with such icy exactness that the politeness feels hollow. If someone is aggressive, the Sigma meets them with the same edge, calmly matching their hostility without flinching. This creates an eerie effect, almost like holding up a raw mirror. No distortion, no comfort, just the unfiltered energy people put out. And that's why it's offensive. Most people rely on others to smooth over their flaws, to play along with their masks. But when a Sigma reflects those flaws directly back at them, they're forced to confront how ugly they actually look. Suddenly the arrogance, the insecurity, or the passive aggression they thought was hidden is laid bare. It's not the Sigma male insulting them, it's their own behavior turned against them, and that's much harder to swallow. What makes this even more brutal is how calm the Sigma remains during it. There's no mocking grin, no attempt to rub salt in the wound, just a steady, almost clinical reflection of the person's energy. That composure is what makes people so uncomfortable. It leaves them no escape, no excuse, no way to write it off as an overreaction. The mirror doesn't lie, and the Sigma isn't budging. Some people find this fascinating, almost magnetic. Others find it deeply offensive, even threatening. Because once someone has mirrored you accurately, you can never unsee it. You realize the truth of how you appear, and for many that's unbearable. Sigma males don't set out to humiliate. But by being exact mirrors, they strip away illusions, and in a world built on masks, nothing is more offensive than the truth reflected back without mercy. Number 10. They question sacred beliefs publicly. Few things make people more uncomfortable than having their sacred beliefs questioned. Religion, politics, traditions, even workplace mantras, most people protect these ideas like fragile glass. You're not supposed to touch them, let alone shatter them. But Sigma males don't care about those unspoken rules. If something doesn't add up, they'll say it plainly. If a belief contradicts itself, they'll point it out. Not with rage or drama, but with that calm, surgical honesty that makes the room go cold. This offends people not because the Sigma is necessarily wrong, but because he's exposing how much of their identity is built on unexamined assumptions. Beliefs are rarely just beliefs. They're security blankets, shields against chaos, and social glue for belonging. When a Sigma casually slices through them with logic, it feels like he's not just questioning an idea, he's questioning the person's entire existence. The sting comes from the way he does it. There's no performance, no raised voice, no attempt to dominate. He'll ask a simple, clean question that dismantles years of emotional certainty in seconds. He won't even look like he's trying to offend, because he isn't. To him, it's just a conversation. To everyone else, it feels like public humiliation. What makes this worse is that Sigma males don't stop at taboo topics because they're rebellious. They do it because they can't pretend truth has boundaries. If a thought crosses their mind, they'll say it, no matter how untouchable the subject is. And people hate this, because society runs on polite avoidance. You're supposed to nod, stay quiet, or agree to disagree. Sigma males don't subscribe to that script, and their refusal to play along feels like an insult to the group's unity. The irony is, most of the time, Sigma males aren't trying to change anyone's mind. They're not looking for followers or validation. They're simply following their own logic. But the fallout is unavoidable. People walk away offended, exposed, and sometimes even angry, because the Sigma's calm honesty forced them to see that their sacred beliefs might not be as sacred as they thought. Number 11. They treat flattery as an insult. Most people love flattery. A well-placed compliment can brighten their mood, inflate their ego, and sometimes even buy their loyalty. But Sigma males don't play that game. When someone flatters them, they don't beam with pride or soak it up with gratitude. Instead, they often look unimpressed, bored, or even slightly irritated. To the person dishing out the compliment, this reaction feels like a slap in the face. Why? Because flattery is rarely innocent. More often than not, it's a form of social currency. People use it to grease conversations, gain favor, or mask hidden motives. Compliments are a kind of subtle transaction. I boost your ego, you give me access, approval, or advantage in return. But Sigma males see through that transaction instantly. To them, flattery is less about kindness and more about manipulation. And the moment they sense that, the compliment becomes an insult. This offends people deeply, because flattery depends on one thing: the receiver's willingness to believe it. The Sigma's refusal to play along exposes how artificial the words really are. What the flatterer intended as a smooth move suddenly looks like cheap trickery. And nothing bruises the ego faster than being caught trying to manipulate someone who won't even pretend to take the bait. The Sigma's reaction also reveals how different his values are. He doesn't thrive on external validation. He doesn't need applause to confirm his worth. In fact, praise often makes him suspicious. Why are you saying this? What do you want? That mindset turns what most people see as a pleasant social ritual into an interrogation. And once a Sigma male shuts down a compliment with silence or a dismissive look, the room shifts. The person giving the flattery feels exposed, embarrassed, and strangely small. At the core, this behavior isn't about arrogance, it's about immunity. Sigma males simply don't hand over control of their self-worth to other people's words. They know a compliment can be just as manipulative as an insult. And when they treat flattery as an insult, they're really saying, "You can't buy me with empty words." That's why in their world, compliments don't build bridges, they burn them. Number 12. They treat popularity as a joke. For most people, popularity is oxygen. They chase it in schools, workplaces, online platforms, even in friendships. Being liked is seen as proof of value, a safety net, and a ticket into opportunities. But Sigma males don't just ignore popularity. They treat the entire concept like a bad joke. They roll their eyes at groupthink, mock the desperate scramble for attention, and carry themselves as if being liked is the lowest currency in existence. To those who worship approval, this attitude isn't just confusing, it feels like a direct insult. Why? Because popularity runs on an unspoken agreement. You bend, you perform, you water yourself down to fit in, and in return, people clap for you. But Sigma males refuse to sign that contract. They'd rather be disliked for who they are than celebrated for an act. So when everyone else is bending over backward to be accepted, their indifference looks like defiance. It's as if the Sigma is saying, "Your approval means nothing. Your likes, your claps, your nods, they don't move me." That kind of dismissal cuts deep because it exposes just how fragile popularity really is. The offense goes even further because Sigmas sometimes poke fun at the idea outright. They'll laugh at influencer culture, shrug at office politics, or casually dismiss the rituals people use to climb social ladders. And when they do, they're not just mocking the system, they're mocking the people who live and breathe by it. That sting is hard to ignore. What makes this worse is the Sigma's calm detachment. He's not angry, he's not protesting, he simply doesn't care. And indifference is the one reaction that power-hungry, approval-hungry people can't handle. You can fight hate, you can negotiate love, but you can't do anything with someone who genuinely doesn't care whether you exist or not. That's why the Sigma's mockery of popularity lands like an attack. It strips the entire game of its value. At the heart of it, Sigmas don't reject popularity because they're rebels. They reject it because they know it's hollow. To them, being liked by everyone means you've watered yourself down to nothing. And that's not respect, that's cheap applause. At the end of the day, Sigma males don't set out to offend. They don't wake up thinking, "Whose ego can I crush today?" What makes them so unsettling is that their natural way of living cuts through the illusions everyone else depends on. They don't bow to authority, they don't worship social gods, they don't fake interest, and they don't justify their choices just to make others comfortable. And that's exactly why people take it so personally. Because a Sigma male's very existence exposes truths that most would rather keep buried. It's not about arrogance, it's about indifference. And indifference is louder than hate. Hate acknowledges your importance. Indifference erases it. That's why their silence, their honesty, and their refusal to play along hit harder than open conflict ever could. So while others may see Sigma males as cold, rude, or offensive, the reality is this: they simply won't trade authenticity for acceptance. And in a world built on performance, nothing is more offensive than someone who refuses to act. If you've made it this far, you already know this wasn't your typical list. It was a mirror held up to the uncomfortable side of human interaction. Now, if this breakdown shook something in you, don't just walk away. Hit that subscribe button, and share this video. Drop a comment below and let me know which Sigma offense you think is the sharpest. Because here's the truth: Sigma males don't care if you love them or hate them. But if you understand them, you'll never see people the same way again. If this video hit you hard and opened your eyes to how Sigma males truly offend without even trying, don't just sit back. Be part of the conversation. Smash that subscribe button so you never miss another breakdown like this. Hit like if you want more brutally honest content. Drop a comment below with the offense that shocked you the most. And don't forget to share this with someone who thinks they understand Sigma males, because chances are they really don't. Stay sharp, stay real, and I'll catch you in the next one.